Let's talk a bit about how to build trust around AI coding, because AI coding, AI coding is not going away. It's here to stay for a long time, right? And there's this vibe coding. I love vibe coding. I'm totally into it. 2 years now. But I also understand that many don't like it. Many hate it, right? I would say maybe 1/3 of the people, developers, hate it, 1/3 love it, and 1/3 is like in between. They accept it, use it maybe for testing, a bit of code completion, a bit of chatting around what's going on in my code base and so on, right? But those that are really into it, I think they have an advantage because, let me explain. Chatting to a model, to a coding assistant, takes experience. It's like I wanted to get to know you better. It takes experience to understand how you work, right? How you answer when you don't you want to communicate with me and so on. You get the point. I think you need experience with this, and this takes a bit of time. So what do you put into the context window and what not? What happens if you do this and that, right? And if you do this in the beginning, it can be very frustrating. And if you're a very good developer, and then you do vibe coding for the first time, you might be very frustrating. Because you put in garbage, of course, it's because you start with it, but you get garbage out. And then thinking, well, I can do this much better and much faster. I don't need AI. AI is not good for me, right? And it's not fun either, this waiting. I'm not thinking anymore. So you're finding excuses not to use it. And I understand it. But let's untangle this a bit. Vibe coding, I think, lowers the barriers for people like me, semi-developers. I don't like coding, to be honest. I started coding because I thought it was fun, but in order to develop a small thing, you need to learn so much. Let me give an example. I want a PDF. I want to pass a PDF file, for example. In order to do this, I need to understand either how PDFs work, or I use a library for that. But in order to use a library, I need to understand the library first, right? I need to read the documents and test it out, and it fails. Then there's I read on Stack Overflow how it's done, and then I ask questions, and then people are rude, and it's not really fun. It takes a long time to get any shit done, basically. But with vibe coding, I get shit done immediately, and it tells me how it works. Of course, I understand it. It might destroy or introduce errors at the same time somewhere else if I'm not doing a good vibe coding job. That's what happens at the beginning. That's why you need experience. But I don't have the dependency anymore to other people, to other systems like Stack Overflow. It just helps me to get shit done in a very short amount of time. And that's what I love with it. But it needs experience, of course, to do a great job with vibe coding. Let me explain. You put in nothing, garbage, a short text, do this for me, and then you probably get the feature out, and it might destroy something else. That's how it's very often work. And this is garbage out, garbage in, garbage out. So you need to work on this context engineering, meaning that what do you put into the chat box, right? And this is not only your user prompt, it's also maybe some additional information like other files, like other documentation or documentation in general, files, the structure of your code base or of your module. All this needs to go into, and you need to explain what you want. If you don't do this, it just does something. But this something is in your control. You can steer this. That's why we have those steering documents like the cursor rules files or Claude MD or instruction MD file to tell exactly what we want. And you don't need to have only one file, you can have many files. One per module, for example, and additional information and documentations explaining exactly how you want to have things. If you want to have a certain structure and follow this structure over and over again, you put it in your ClaudMD file. And if it's something else, create other documents and inject this into your context window. It is possible. It is possible to be very precise, also with vibe coding, but you need to care. Right? It's garbage in, garbage out. The more effort you put into your input, the better the result. So, but how do we mitigate this? How do we mitigate this? Vibe coding is not everything, right? And what I just said is basically producing a lot of documentation, lots of input. But there's a more sexy way of doing it, and this is SDD, spec-driven development. There's Kiro, for example, which is a new AI editor from Amazon. I tried it a bit and it works great. You basically tell it what you want to do, what feature you want to have, and then it would create a specification. So how this requirements document basically, right? As you know, as a user, I want this and I expect this to happen and so on. And based on this file that you can reiterate over and over again until you are happy, it creates an implementation plan, a design. So how the architecture would look like, how it would be implemented. And you agree to it or not. And you iterate over and over again until you are happy. For example, if you use GitHub Spec Kit, for example, it would create a massive document very often. And that's cool. I don't need to use all of this. I can delete most of it. I can delete all those non-functional tests, for example, if I'm not into this right now. Because I read sometimes that it's too extensive, too detailed and so on. Yeah, then vibe code over it. Get it fixed, right? Until you're happy. And then that's the third step, which is then the tasks plan. I'm not an English speaker, native English speaker. You might have heard it. And then you can just say, do all of those tasks in one shot. Might not be smart. Or you do this phase by phase or task by task, right? And in between, you can manually validate those changes. If you disagree, then you vibe code over it or you make changes to the plans overall. This is all possible. You are the pilot, right? You're not the co-pilot. You are the pilot. The AI is the co-pilot, so you decide. So that's why I don't understand that people don't like AI coding so much, because it does introduce errors and you're not in control. You are in control. Get the control. You are the pilot. That's how I see it, at least. But I understand there are issues. If you have a large code base, how do you manage it with AI? How do you debug this? In order to debug it, it needs access to external systems. For example, the logging server. You need to connect it to for example, Splunk. If you're into Splunk, you need to connect it to a Splunk MCP server. And there may be other servers that you need to integrate. All this work needs to be done by, for example, you or a platform AI team who does this for you, right? In our company, we have this platform AI team that does those kinds of things, that enable engineers to do vibe coding or spec-driven development coding, AI coding, basically, to be faster. So, when do we use what? I think vibe coding is great for quick changes, if you know what you want, if it's just a minor thing, and you are in full control. I think vibe coding is fine. Then we talked about spec SDD, but there's another mode. This is plan mode. You can plan. If you have seen Cursor in the last 2-3 days or so, they came with planning mode. Or was it a week ago or two? Anyway, Claude has had this for a long time. Codex has this. So it would create a plan for you. You write a user message, a prompt with some context and so on, and then it would plan if you tell it to plan. I think Claude does this by default, but others you have to tell it. Anyway, you get this plan. It's not a detailed specification, but you see in detail what happens, and it does this then. And you can also iterate over this plan if you're not happy. But it doesn't get persisted unless as spec-driven development, where you get markdown files that are great for sharing and working and collaborating together with other people. Right? You don't have this in plan mode. So this is kind of an in-between state. But let's talk about spec-driven development once again, because this is really great if you want to work together with your product manager, with your team, with your testers, with your other engineers. You specify a feature or many features or project, and then create this specification, implementation, and task list. And you all agree on that, and you all are happy. I think that is a great compromise. Those three, vibe, plan, SDD, go hand in hand. The one is not better than the other. It should be a balance between those three. So please give me a thumbs up if you already do vibe coding, planning, and spec. Would be super interesting to see. Thank you so much.